Hello, hello, and welcome once again to the 17th Annual Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. I am Program Director James Sullivan. We are here to talk about one of our shorts, blocks of short films. This one is called Wonderful World. And we've been having a great set of conversations this weekend with several of the filmmakers of our shorts blocks. Fittingly, we're ending on this series of interviews on an upbeat note with the set of shorts blocks that we're set of short films that we're calling Wonderful World. This interview will be archived on our YouTube channel if you're interested in accessing it later, and it will also be available to be. Oh, there's our YouTube. Please go to our YouTube channel, find us there. And subscribe if you so wish, so that you can be notified of all of the fantastic content we're producing with filmmaker interviews. For the rest of the week, all of our films can be streamed all the way up through a week from today, next Sunday, the 26th of September, including these shorts blocks. And anyone who streams this particular shorts block will also be able to access, will be immediately brought into this archived interview immediately after the films finish. So let's go ahead and talk to the filmmakers. I just want to say a quick hello to each of them who can be with us today. First is David Regos. David's film is A Fistful of Rubbish. David was also with us yesterday. He's got two short films, actually, in our festival. David, thanks for being with us again.
Thanks. Good to be here again as well.
Kirsten Kelly and Danielle Ash are two of the principal filmmakers on The Girl with the Rivet Gun, which I'm excited to talk about. Very much an unusual style on that film, and we love it. So we're excited to talk to you both about that. They're coming to us from New York. Thanks for being with us.
Happy to be here.
Great to be here. So excited.
And Jennifer Steinman, a returning filmmaker, has been had films in our festival on multiple occasions in the past. Jennifer is currently at her parents' house, right, in Northern California. Is that right?
Yes, you've outed me. Yes.
Fittingly, since your film is Gramma and Ginga, and we'll get to talking about that in a minute. But
That's true. The elderly are apparently a theme.
Yes, exactly. Right. Thanks to everybody for being here. Let's start with David. So David, your film, A Fistful of Rubbish, you were living in Spain. Actually, why don't you tell us this for starters? Why were you living in Spain during this period?
The short story is for love. I met my girlfriend who she was living in Spain at the time. We went together. I went and visited. She was living in a little mountain town outside of Madrid. I was living in New York at the time, and just went to visit her, and I stayed. So it was just kind of a bit of a life change, and went from kind of crazy New York city life to a little mountain town. And it was during that time, actually after I finished Divide and Conquered around that same time, and I wanted to start looking for another environmentally themed project to work on, and so I ended up finding this story just in Spain, just through research, and it kind of all happened from there.
For those who maybe weren't with us or haven't seen yet the other shorts block that David was involved with, we talked a little bit about Divide and Conquered, which is a film that he was involved with the making of, which showed in our festival several years ago at this point. And that is a feature film about sort of the second revolution in Concord, Massachusetts, right? Which is, in this case, was the one, the revolution, the pretty hard fought debate over whether or not to ban plastic water bottles. And as the film points out, in a pretty amusing way, You guys did a really nice job of weaving in that sort of revolutionary, history of Concord. But Concord was the first municipality in America, right, to actually ban the use of plastic water bottles. And if you go visit Concord now, there's reusable water filling stations everywhere because they don't want to put all that extra plastic into the world, right? All the used plastic.
Exactly, yeah, and it was just single serve bottled water. So I think you can still buy the large plastic bottles, but they've done a great job with limiting the consumption of single serve bottled water. And Jean Hill, who was the pioneer for that, 84-year-old grandmother, her dream was that this would be the drop in the water with the rings that would spread around, and it would have an effect, a flow-on effect, and that's been happening in parts of Massachusetts and other parts in the US. So that film is still being used by communities to take grassroots local action on an environmental issue, and so kind of as a result of Divide and Conquered, I really wanted to the way that audiences responded to it, because as you said, it was kind of humorous and we had reconstructions. We filmed battle reconstructions, and so somehow with A Fistful of Rubbish, I ended up filming people in costume again, talking about an environmental issue.
Right. So it's a theme. That's the only kind of film you're going to be able to make. Environmental issues with people playing dress up, right?
Exactly. That's got to be it for every film that I make from now on. Has to have guns and costumes.
So my guess, and I guess I'm wrong, was that you somehow found that desert in Spain because you're a filmmaker and wanted to go see it because it's the place where all the spaghetti westerns, the Italian westerns were filmed. It was a stand-in for sort of the Wild West of, old America, because the Italian filmmakers found that place, and it looks like, it's pretty remarkable actually to see it and realize, oh, that's in Europe. That's not in America, but it looks like it is. My guess was that you went to see it and then found the community that is, that undertook this effort to clean it up because it was getting trashed and nobody was paying attention. Nobody was doing anything about but you actually went out and looked for an environmental story during your time in Spain.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it didn't happen that way. Like I said, I was spending kind of a few months just kind of from home researching stories, and I ended up eventually finding this story written by a little expat magazine online, and the headline was something like, in the land where Sergio Leone filmed his famous westerns, there's a new villain, Rubbish or something. And I thought, first of all, I didn't realize that Sergio Leone had shot his famous trilogy in Spain, right? And then that there was that people have been dumping rubbish there all around these sets, and the article said that there was this English guy who had moved there and was kind of appalled at what he had seen and started organizing these local cleanup campaigns, and here's his number because he's looking for volunteers. So I just called him up and I said, hey Jules, I'm a documentary filmmaker, I just read about your initiative, I think it's great, can you tell me a bit about it? Are the sets actually all still there and you can kind of go around? And he said, yeah. And I said, and there's rubbish in that area? He says, yeah, you can walk, 500 meters from these iconic, historic sets. And there's mattresses and there's TVs and there's all sorts of rubbish. And I said, okay, I'm going to come and spend a few days with you. And over the course of a few years, we ended up, maybe my cinematographer and I going down 3 or 4 times to film interviews and film the cleanups. And it was always my intention to try and stylize it like a spaghetti western, right? Because I just wanted to do something kind of quirky and different in that environmental filmmaking world.
Right. Okay, so that brings us to our next pair of filmmakers, Danielle. Let's bring up Danielle and Kirsten, who again are two of the principals behind The Girl with the Rivet Gun. So as David just said, his film uses that idea of the spaghetti westerns, where that were shot in this desert that's having this environmental concern. He used really fun elements of sort of playing with the idea that what the spaghetti westerns looked like in telling his story in short film form. And you folks made your film in another rather unique way. So first, I want to start with Kirsten. Can you just tell us first about the idea behind tracking? You wanted to go out and track down a few of the surviving Rosies, right? The Rosie the Riveters, the women who actually worked in the factories during World War II. For anyone who's not familiar, if you've seen the "We Can Do It" woman, in the denim, making a muscle, from flexing from World War II, that's Rosie the Riveter. And you found several examples of the women who were the actual Rosies, and interviewed them. So tell me about the original thought behind finding them, putting their voices on tape, and putting the film together.
Yeah, so Anne, my film partner, and I, and our producer, Elizabeth Hemmerdinger, we loved Rosie the Riveter, and we worked with NYU Library to capture 47 Rosie the Riveters and their experience working during World War II. And so they were incredible stories, 47 women that you wouldn't have expected, so we really went beyond the "We Can Do It" poster girl and tried to really delve into what their lives were like, what their obstacles and challenges were like. I mean, this was the first major time in our country where a mass of women were allowed to go to work and get their own paycheck. So it was this incredible movement, and so much of that has not been captured in depth. And much of it, there are oral histories that are recorded, but not much video. So we took, and we knew these golden stories needed to become something even bigger to reach more people. So we chose several of the stories, and we wanted to work with animation to really bring them alive and use animation to work with the memories that these women, these incredible women in their 80s and 90s were telling us, these moments of their lives. So we found Danielle, and her incredible style of animation just connected so deeply to the sort of hands-on work that Rosie the Riveter did. And Danielle is such a genius that we all started working together and took 3 of the Rosie's stories and really brought them to life and weaved them together.
Right. Danielle, you mentioned before we got started here that you've done this style. So for anyone watching this interview now, you've seen the films, you've seen the fantastic animated work that Danielle does, and it's very specific. I mean, it's using the corrugated cardboard. I mean, I'll tell you that when I first started watching it, I was knocked out by that. I mean, you don't think that corrugated cardboard would work as well as it does. It's so rough, and it's not perfect at all. I mean, that's kind of the idea, right? But I was just knocked out by. I mean, I love animation, unique animation anyway, and the way you choose to do to work the form is really incredible. So, but I think you mentioned that you've in past work, you've among other things done work for Sesame Street. Is that what you said?
I have. I've done several projects with this cardboard style now. My first film was Pickles for Nickels, a story about New York stories, and another one was for Sesame Street, where I did a short film, Counting to the Number 4. Those were all made out of cardboard, which is such a great material. It's number one, reusing and recycling, but it also just really has this great tactile feel, and you can build so many things and get some really great textures. So I had a lot of fun making it.
And do you, when Kirsten and her colleagues approached you, did you already have, do you love the Rosie the Riveter icon also?
Sure.
I'm sure,
yeah,
right?
Definitely. Those women were a huge inspiration for me. and to do something with their real life stories was really special. It's actually inspired me to take up power tools and make things myself. So,
what are you building? You're building fighter jets at home now?
Now I'm building puppets out of wood.
Oh, okay. Can either one of you tell me whether any of the Rosies, the real life Rosies, have seen the film?
Well, unfortunately, 2 of them have passed away, and we. I don't know that the 3rd one has seen it yet. We have been in touch with their family. As you can imagine, they're quite elderly at this point. Sure. But they were, when we filmed with them almost 10 years ago, the original interviews that we took their stories from, it was a really special moment because, they were reliving these, not just reliving memories, it's just, they are, it was this moment where people were paying attention after a really long time. And so for them to kind of walk back through these memories was really kind of this sacred time of, a last moment to be able to share these stories and to kind of really understand collectively after so many generations how much that movement really inspired further women's movements. I mean, it was really, they made sure their daughters got educated, and their daughters were the ones who sort of marched forward in the women's movement in the 70s. And so you just sort of discover this whole connective tissue of history. So we think they're incredible, and their stories need to be told everywhere.
Absolutely. Right. And so that brings us to Jennifer. Can we bring up Jennifer? We're talking about, it's a nice segue to about, leaving behind your legacy and considering what your legacy is. And in Jennifer's case, if you've watched the films already, Gramma and Ginga, they left behind a very different kind of legacy, but one that we all find hilarious. So I guess maybe just begin by telling us, how did you first come across their story? The fact that they had become these sort of accidental internet stars.
Well, by luck. So I made a film several years ago, which actually also showed at this fabulous festival called Desert Runners. And it's about desert ultramarathon runners. And so when that film came out, I sort of got immersed in this community of ultra athletes. I had a lot of them as fans and a lot of people that I followed on Facebook and Instagram. And so I became sort of Facebook friends with this guy, Frank Fumick, who is a extreme athlete. He's done all sorts of insane things like ride a bike across America and climb every peak in the world or whatever. Anyway, he's insane, but I love him. And he's a friend that I met through that community of making that film. And one day in 2018, he had a post on his Facebook page saying, "Don't forget to say happy birthday to my world famous grandma." Oh. And I was like, "World famous grandma? What are you talking about, Frank?" And so I clicked on his post. And the next thing I knew, I was transported into the world of Gramma and Ginga, who apparently at that point had gone viral for about the last 3 years. But when I discovered them, they had already about 1.5 million followers on Facebook. I had like millions and millions and hundreds of millions of YouTube hits. And I spent an entire day sucked into YouTube, watching video after video after video. And then after about 6 hours of them, I sent Frank an email and I said, "Frank, why haven't you told me about your grandma and her sister? And we should make a movie about them." And he wrote me back in 5 minutes and said, "I was waiting for your email." And then, when you have two subjects of a film that are 99 and 103, which they were at the time, you don't have time to do the traditional fundraising route. You just have to get on a plane and go shoot because you don't know how much time you have with them. Right. So a month later, my friend and I just grabbed our cameras and we hopped on a plane and we went to West Virginia and we started filming them. And we made about 3 trips over the next 6 months. And that's how we found Grandma Ginga.
Right. So we love, one of the things that we love about documentaries is that we learn stuff from them, right? And in the case of Gramma and Ginga, here's what I learned, and this might be my favorite thing that I've learned about from every film that we're showing this year's festival. Gramma uses the term nib shit. And I had never heard that before, and I had to look it up. I love it. Like, she said, yeah, she's a nib shit. And
I thought it was nip shit, and
no,
for the longest time, but I got corrected. It is nib shit with a B.
And it's like, yeah, if you're nibby, I didn't know this either, but if you're nibby, it means like you're nosy. You're like poking around too much, right? And so a nib shit is her, right? Okay,
It's her little sister, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, incredible. They were so funny. Gramma has sadly passed away since, right? But this was a few years ago that you filmed them, couple.
Yeah, we filmed in 2018. We were very lucky that we filmed when we did. Without, well, I don't want to give spoilers away, but something does happen in the film that is sort of the beginning of the decline, unfortunately, that happened after we were filming, and so both of them, their health did deteriorate over the next year or two. But I will say Ginga is still with us. She's alive and kicking. And she's 103 now, I think.
Right.
But there's some dementia there, but she's still her sweet, sassy self. And Grandma lived to be 106. Yeah. She just passed away this past December. She passed away on Christmas Day, and she is like a devout Catholic, and it was like perfection. Oh. And she had a great life. I think she was tired. She was good to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the lesson we should all take away, obviously, from them is, if you want to live a long time, have a good sense of humor, Yeah. That's huge. And they're so much fun. So we really appreciate you making the film and sharing it with us. Producer Steve, can we bring everybody back in for a minute? All right, so I'm just going to throw this out there for you all to bat around, if you don't mind. We've David's the other shorts block that David's other film in our festival this year is called Silver Linings: Scenes from a Pandemic. All of those films are in some way, usually sort of a sideways look into the pandemic. Not just another straight up, geez, we're all stuck at home story, but different angles on the pandemic, and most of them, with a positive twist to them. And then earlier today, we showed our other, we had an interview segment with another shorts block called The Art of Community, in which all 4 films, in some way or another, speak to the idea of making a neighborhood a home, what it takes to make a neighborhood a home. And the films are not exactly all, sort of a piece, but we think they work really well together. And in this case, we haven't even mentioned, because the filmmakers couldn't be here, but Supper Club and Snowy, the film about the short film about the pet turtle. All of your films we think work really well together. We like to say at the film festival that we're always looking for. Who's David? Are you getting arrested or?
It's Brooklyn.
Oh, it's Brooklyn.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry. I'm in the suburbs of New Jersey now. It's very safe.
Oh, okay. Right.
Sounds of Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. We like to say that we're always on the lookout for. I mean, we love all styles of documentary. Obviously, that's what we show, from the deepest, most profound sort of travelogues. All kinds of stuff, but we are always looking for good, quirky documentaries, and we always just, shorthand quirky. And David, you actually used the word quirky talking about A Fistful of Rubbish. It's a little bit, overly simplistic to say that your films are all quirky in their own way, but it's true. We put your films together. Sorry, I just got a phone call. It's interruption hour, I guess. Okay. We put your films together and titled them Wonderful World, and it seems like a great way to end the series of shorts blocks for this weekend and interviews on an up note. Does it make sense to include your films with each other's, and in terms of them being kind of offbeat things that make this a wonderful world? In fact, anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think we need that right now.
Right.
We really do. We need a little vacation and a joy and quirkiness.
Right.
A little bit of hope.
Yeah. For me now, the projects that I want to be involved with have to be inspiring and hopeful. And if I can infuse some, comedy or humor or sense of this like offbeat quirkiness in there, then for me that's kind of the cherry on top. But that's what I gravitate towards, and I find that the more you gravitate towards it, the more it finds you as well. And so for me, a sense of humor is important. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of these stories, like, sometimes people think like, oh, if I want to change the world, I've got to make this social issue documentary film that's going to be hard hitting and it's going to go straight to the heart of the matter, which I do love those films too. I did no criticism of them, but I also think like these films that are funny or lighthearted can still have just as, interesting and serious of a theme and have the same wisdom and the same ideas in them. I know that Gramma and Ginga, for me, there's so much conversation in there about how we treat the elderly and what it means to live that long, what it means to watch everyone you've ever known pass away before you. Like there's a lot of bittersweetness in there, and a lot of life lessons, but it can be in like an entertaining, hysterical wrapper, which is, makes it's some of the fun of filmmaking, that you can have that kind of complexity all going on at the same time.
Yeah, well, unquestionably, I mean, that's what we love about what we do is, what you guys do, making films like this so that we can show them. I mean, there's such, the range of documentary film is everything under the sun. I say that all the time, and it's absolutely true. And you're absolutely right, Jennifer. I mean, we love the hard-hitting social issue documentaries if they're well done. But we also love this end of the spectrum too. And so thank you so much for doing your work. And hi, Kirsten's
son. Sorry about
son.
that.
That's fine. He wanted to make his appearance before we were finished. And it's a perfect time to wrap up. Thank you so much, Jennifer, Danielle, Kirsten, David, for being with us, and Kirsten's son. He just ran out of the room. What's his name?
Connor.
Okay. And so Connor, thanks for being with us as well. So pleasure. Really look forward to seeing what you all come up with next, and we'll see you at the next festival. Maybe we'll see you here live in Newburyport. And in the meantime, tell your friends, check out the this shorts block and A Wonderful World, and any other films we're showing all the way up through next Sunday. We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, without whom we could not do this. And we will see you again soon at the movies.